this
Okay.
conversation. I just wanted to make a break so it was easier to. Okay, so continue. So the Zaka, so your parents settle in Mount Clemens, right? Where did they...
I don't know that. They were married in 1929, and what was the date on that loan?
Oh, good question.
The loan.
That was for the Indiana.
That was for the home in Indiana, 11440 Indiana, in Detroit.
So we don't know where they were between when they got married and when they happened to go to Indiana.
No.
But we know when they.
But they must have been married at that time because both of their names are on that loan.
Right. Well,
that dad got for $2,100, which he didn't have in his pocket apparently, so he borrowed $2,100 from a loan company. We have the paperwork that shows that, to be paid back at the rate of $17 and some change on a monthly basis for 15 years.
Such a deal. He'd be proud to know that your nephew, Michael, is a real estate.
In the real estate business, yes, that's right.
Too.
That's right.
So speaking of which, let's just do a tangent of when you think about your family, your background of your family, and all of your nieces and nephews and stuff, who's carried on any of the family
what?
I don't know, traits or
traditions,
proclivities or hobbies or work. Because I was just thinking, we've got some doctors on the strata side.
Well, it's amazing how successful all of my parents' grandchildren are, personally and professionally successful. All of them.
Yeah, so
it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Coming from immigrant parents. My father's family, my father's father, I believe, was well-to-do because of pictures I've seen of them, where they're very well-dressed.
Were they in Greece then?
Yes.
So
yes. Probably in Greece or Bulgaria.
Right.
They emigrated to Bulgaria actually. But they're very well dressed. One of his sisters is sporting a wristwatch, which I would be really surprised. And this would have been in the early 1900s, very early 1900s.
Your father was a handsome devil.
Yes, he was.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, he was. His father was in the import-export business. I think olive oil, olives, things of that sort. So they were quite well-to-do. This was in probably Turkey and Bulgaria, probably both.
Then what do you think caused your father to leave?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Absolutely no. And I don't know why he was the only one in his family that left. Especially since I'm sure the family was, fairly well-to-do, comfortably situated. So I have no idea.
Do you know how old he was when he came through?
He was born in either 1890 or 92.
That means he was quite old when he got married for those days.
Yes. He was about 40 when he got married.
Oh my gosh, right, 92.
I was born in 35.
Oh my gosh, so he would have been
45 or so when I was born,
It's incredibly old for then. Tell me what you remember about your father. Tell me your memories. Like when you think back, because you were probably
I was 17 when he died.
17?
17.
Mom was 19.
I had just turned 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about just, what's your recollection? So do you see him sitting in a particular chair?
Wow, it's going to be hard to do without the tears flowing.
Oh, well,
I just remember him as being very fair.
Wine there.
I remember him as being a very fair
drinking
person.
my wine.
Very, very honest person. Very upfront. That's fine, thank you. Very intellectual. Very. He knew so much. When I was in school and I had to write something for a class, say an English class, I had to write a paper. He insisted on reading it before I turned it in to make sure it was all right, to make sure it was correct. Spelling was good, everything was good. I mean, he was very articulate in English.
Do you remember if he had an accent?
He had an accent, but less than any of our relatives. His English was much clearer than any of our uncles or aunts. Although they spoke very well. But he had less of an accent. He lost more of his accent than they had. But he definitely did have an accent. But he just really immersed himself in education. as much as he could.
Do you think he had a high school education?
I have no idea what his education was. Uncle Kiriako talked about how he studied French when he was in what he considered at the time grade school, when he was a young boy.
Uncle Kiriako.
Uncle Kiriako. So I imagine French was probably part of everybody's education, although I don't know if my father spoke French. But in the First World War, I think he was stationed in France. And we have a picture of him, which I came across recently, and I can't remember now where it is, in his uniform, showing his arm patch, his military arm patch. And so that could be evaluated. That arm patch could tell what he did probably during the war.
Right. Okay. But we were talking earlier. It's not unusual that anyone from Europe would speak French.
It's not unusual.
Yeah,
no, it's not. In addition to their native language.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
And I
unusual.
remember my mom saying that he would always have National Geographic slang around.
Oh, yes.
That was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. National Geographic, Time Magazine, and Christian Science Monitor, in addition to the daily newspaper. Those were all the publications that came.
So how many other people on your block growing up would...
Probably none.
Would
have had those. Would have had those. Probably none. So that showed his wide interest in world affairs and information and education in general.
And do you remember when? So you were 17.
I turned 17 2 months before he died.
Right, but you don't remember your mom at all. So he really was the person who was the adult, although you often credit my mom as being a mother to you.
She certainly was. She surely was. In later years, early on, after my mother died, I went to live with my Aunt Artie in Mount Clemens. My father was very fortunate in that he had these old country women in his life, which were willing to take care of his children. And he shipped all three of us off to different homes because he couldn't take care of us at that young age, because we were all so young. My brother was not yet 5 when our mother died, and my sister was 3, and Dad had to work, so I went to live with my Aunt Artie in Mount Clemens. My sister, as I recall, went to live with Aunt Ida, also in Mount Clemens. They were the wives of my mother's oldest brothers. And
where did Jim go?
And my brother Jim, I'm not sure if maybe he stayed home because he was born in December, turned 5 that December after my mother died, and started school in January. So he might have stayed home.
Right.
But he didn't speak English very well because his teachers called my father in and said, "You must start speaking to your son in English because
really?
He's just speaking Greek to us, and he doesn't speak much English."
So your dad spoke Greek at home?
Yeah. Well, as long as my mother was alive, yes.
Oh,
as long as my mother was alive. But when my mother died, there was nobody else to speak Greek to, and so he became very fluent in English.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to hold it there.
Okay.
I'm going to turn this off and change some lights, and we'll continue.
Okay.
So hold that thought.